Hey guys, welcome to Unbiased Rugby. So I think the universe has come full circle again. I think in the last couple of weeks we've been living in an ulterior universe with the All Blacks not performing that well. But everything seems to be back on track for the All Blacks. Absolute dominant display from New Zealand. That's the New Zealand side we expect to see. Their defence was absolutely rock solid because I'm looking at the stats and possession and territory is almost 50-50 between the two sides. A lot of the stats are fairly similar. I think a few more clean breaks for New Zealand, more defenders beaten, fewer offloads, similar kind of rucks won, similar kind of walls won. The big issue between the two sides, if I was looking at, is turnovers conceded. The All Blacks 12 and the Wallabies 24. That's just diabolical. But yeah, I was going through the game and I thought, wow, some sick part of me was going, well, I hope the Wallabies do well. But yeah, that All Black side was just absolutely phenomenal. I think the players that came in really proved themselves. I thought the New Zealand scrum was exceptional. I did think that Joe Moody's technique was a little bit, I think it was pretty, it had the dominance. But if you had that spider cam at the top, you could see that he was already turning in. And I don't know why the ref didn't pick it up, because he was turning in, and you could see before they weren't square before they even started. So this was the tight head on the New Zealand side was actually, my camera's backwards. So your tight head's like this, and then he was already crunched in like that, and then it was so much easier for Joe Moody to bore in from the side. And I thought it was very close to being the wrong kind of technique. I think a different kind of ref might have blown that up just a little bit differently. But yeah, I still thought it was an absolutely dominant display. I think the dropping of Owen Franks was, even though a harsh call, I think it was the right call. The dropping of the two, Ben Smith and Ricky Ioane, Siva Reese and George Bridge really brought pace, they brought everything. And for the first time in a long time, there was a New Zealand side picked on form as opposed to history, because they really, with both wingers scored tries. Having Anton Leonard-Brown there at number 13 was just an absolute masterstroke. I think he is an exceptional player, especially at 13. And even Sonny Bill Williams had an incredible game. Aaron Smith played really well. You could see Nick White, he couldn't do those same kind of sniping runs from the New Zealand side. The pillar defence was rock solid. They were on him straight away, so he just couldn't do it. And he was trying every so often, but there were a lot of moves that the Australians did. They were exceptionally amazing, absolutely amazing. It just like the last movement, there'd be a really good scramble defence from the All Blacks, and they just knocked them out. The defence from the All Blacks was on another level, and that's the All Blacks we expect to see every week, and they really stepped up and they really took that Wallaby side apart. It was systematical, it was clinical, it was everything. Even when they had 7 people in the scrum, they were still dominating those scrums. Before we were really doing Australia's praises last week, and yes, they had an exceptional game last week, but I still felt they need to have 2 good performances in a row, and that really wasn't a good performance tonight. I think they might have done fairly well against another side. It's just to be scoreless on the night is just that's as a South African, I know what it's like to lose scoreless against the All Blacks. So a much worse score than that. So it was an absolute dominant display from the All Blacks. It was a well-deserved victory for them. To speak about some of the players, I thought Joe Moody had a really good game. I think the dropping of Owen Franks was the writing on the wall. No one's safe on that side, and I think he really stepped up and he was attacking really well on that loose head side because the tight head was having the advantage and getting over the advantage line. I still have an issue with Dane Coles and Ardy Severe. That niggliness that they have. And look, you can say whatever you want about the yellow card. It still comes down to the movement beforehand. He was warned literally the previous play. Listen, cool it. And the next play he goes and throws someone out, and it was touching the neck. And yeah, if it was just that incident on its own, maybe it would have been a penalty. But because he had already been spoken to literally 30 seconds before that, you can't expect anything less. But you know, they still, the All Blacks were so dominant, even with 14 men on the field. Ardie Savea, jeez, that guy's just incredible. Him playing at 8 I think, is the right place for him to be. Just gives him so many more opportunities. I like Kieran Reid. I think he's played 2 seriously good games in a row. But him playing at 6 I think is a little bit better than having Ardie Savea on the side. I think he just brings so much more at 8 than Kieran Reid does at the moment. I thought the locks played okay. I thought the lineouts were a little bit iffy, but on both sides, I found in the beginning the All Blacks were doing what the Springboks do every now and again. They just do too much movement in the lineout, and they lost. I think they lost 1 lineout, if I'm not mistaken, or they lost 2 lineouts. But so did the Wallabies. But yeah, I think the defence. I think according to this, Australia had a 78% tackle rate, which is not good enough for an international. New Zealand at 88. That literally is not good enough, especially against a really good attacking side like the All Blacks. I think Richie Mo'unga's coming into his role at the 10 spot, and they're finally starting to get. Look, there's been a lot of talk about that 10-50 split between the two. I hope he's not injured, because he's such an exciting player going forward. He'd really be missed if he missed out on the World Cup because of this game. But yeah, overall it was a seriously hard game. The All Blacks came out firing, and they thoroughly deserved that win. And I'm not taking anything away from the Wallabies, because they were there or thereabouts. It just wasn't their night, and you could see it wasn't their night at all. I think those are the outside backs. One thing I must say, I did see Ben Smith as the water boy. You know, you would have thought that with him being dropped is a big word to say for Ben Smith. He's still there. He's still with the team. He's still helping them out. You know, that shows the kind of spirit that's in the side. But yeah, you know, there's been a lot of talk in these last couple of weeks about, you know, New Zealand here. They're not in the same form as they used to be. But this is the 4th game of the year for them. Their system seemed to be coming into sharp focus very quickly. I think they got 1 more game against Tonga before the World Cup, and then it's the South Africans' first game of the World Cup. But yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with that All Black side. The dropping of those 3 players was the right call, and a thoroughly deserved victory for the All Blacks. But what did you think of the game, guys? Did you think it was a masterstroke from Steve Hansen? Do you think the All Blacks came out really firing on every single cylinder? Or did you think the Wallabies are just extremely bad? I didn't think the Wallabies were that bad. They were completely outplayed, outclassed, outdefended, out everything. And this is from a Wallaby side that last week could have beaten any single team in the world. So yeah, I think the universe has righted itself. We're back in the territory where the All Blacks are the best. But yeah, you know, we find out today, because, you know, obviously Wales play England in the next about an hour's time, and if Wales win that game, then they'll take the top spot in the world, which would be thoroughly deserved for them. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend, especially after that game, to see how the world progresses in international rugby. But yeah, guys, put down your comments down below what you thought of the game. What moments do you enjoy? What player stood out for you? I'm trying to think of the player that stood out for me. It's just Ardie Savea always stands out. He's always in you know, that part of my mind where I think, geez, that guy plays well. LB played extremely well. But yeah, I'd still say my man of the match is probably Ardie Savea. The guy's got so much grunt, so much everything. I think he's almost becoming the perfect loose forward at the moment. But listen, guys, I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful weekend. Chat soon. Cheers. Bye.